Hello, my name is Laura and this is the second episode of my knitting podcast. And for this episode, I have 3 finished objects, 2 works in progress, and a couple acquisitions to show you guys. So starting with what I'm wearing, this is my first finished object and it is my Stockholm Sweater by PetiteKnit. I knitted a size small and the yarn that I used is a Hobby Lobby brand yarn called Yarn Bee Authentic hand dyed in the colorway Stonework. This is about a lace weight yarn, I would say, and I did hold it double so I could meet like the DK weight of the sweater. And I have almost nothing to say about the yarn. Like, it's fine. It's a Hobby Lobby brand yarn. It was my first time using superwash yarn, and I haven't, I think, worn the sweater enough to really like kind of talk about how it's held up. So I'll definitely talk about that, probably like a year-end recap, talk about the yarn itself. But yeah, I guess it is already pilling a little bit. I've probably worn this about 5 times since finishing it. So a little bit of pilling, but that's to be expected. And yeah, the color and like the kind of variegatedness of the pattern, I think I talked about this in my last podcast episode. I'm not like super convinced on it, but it was pretty fun to knit with, like to see the colors change. The end result is maybe not something that I would wear all the time, but I'm pretty proud of it for this being what I consider like my first real knitting pattern. So anyway, it was definitely a lot of fun to make. The yarn, you know, it's okay, but I've learned, I'm still kind of learning and experimenting with what I like. So it was a good lesson in superwash merino. The pattern was honestly like really good. This was my first time doing German short rows. It's a drop shoulder construction. So you knit the back and then you pick up stitches to knit the front, you join in the round, and then you pick up stitches for the sleeves, and then you pick up stitches for the neckband. And honestly, like, yeah, the pattern was super easy to follow. For my first time doing German short rows, it was honestly like pretty easy. Like, once you get it like back and forth a couple times, it's totally fine. And I think blocking it actually helped the German short row bumps kind of settle out a little bit. So that was really reassuring after that. But yeah, the pattern overall was great. I will say, I thought that knitting a size small would get me like the look that PetiteKnit achieved with her sweater. And I do understand that I used like a completely different yarn. Like, I didn't use 100% mohair for this. So I understand that that was a big reason that the sweater wouldn't look the same. But I guess I also just don't block things as aggressively as she might, because I think for like all of her sweaters, she knits a size extra small and it just looks like kind of big on her and like really oversized and carefree. And I love that. And this is not that, even though I made a size small. So maybe I'm just like a completely different size than I thought. But overall, I think that if I want to achieve that like Scandinavian laid back oversized look that she kind of has going on, I'm probably gonna have to go up a size for PetiteKnit patterns, and that's totally fine. But yeah, this is a size small and it's pretty fitted. In blocking, all I did was soak it and then lay it out to dry and just kind of let it do what it wanted to. I don't have blocking pins, so I literally just let it lay out. And I actually measured it before and after blocking so I could see how much it grows. So I measured the chest width, the sleeve length from the armpit to the wrist, and then the length of the sweater from the base of the neckband to the bottom. And all 3 of these measurements were 18 inches. I don't think that's what the pattern said they were supposed to be by the end of it, but that's what mine ended up being. And after blocking it, and like I said, I just laid it out flat. All I did was make sure that the sleeves were laying out to the same length. And they're all still 18 inches, except for the chest grew by 1 inch, which was perfect. Like, the sleeves were a little bit short before blocking, and so after blocking, it's like the perfect length, I think, for me, and like it's pretty comfortable. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know, I thought superwash yarn would grow so much more in blocking, but I guess not. So, but that's fine. It's a good lesson learned. And I do think the more that I block this, it'll probably continue to stretch out and give me that like oversized look that I was wanting in the first place. But again, like, this is all a learning process, and yeah, it just didn't block out as much as I thought it would, which is fine. So anyway, learning new things all the time. Not everything you hear on the internet is correct, I guess, or at least it doesn't always apply to how you might do things. So great lesson learned. A couple things on the pattern that I did differently. So I added an extra 2 centimeters of length to the body. Pretty arbitrarily, I just assumed that I was taller or that I had a longer torso than most people who fit into this like size category. So I went ahead and added those 2 centimeters, and I think it was perfect. Like the length is really nice. It's where I like it. And I picked up more stitches around the arm than was called for in the pattern, but I knew that would happen because I do knit pretty tightly on my row gauge, and so I knew that I'd probably pick up more stitches, but I just picked up in the ratio that she recommended, and I think it worked out fine. Like I don't see any major like bumps or anything crazy. There's just a line where I blocked it and I like laid it flat, so that wasn't there before, but it's fine. But I feel like it picked up pretty smoothly. Like I really like everything that she recommended. Like PetiteKnit like really knows what was going on with this pattern. But yeah, so that was cool on that. And then on the neckband, I used a different size needle than she recommended. I can't remember what she recommended, but I used 3.25 millimeter needles instead. And that's just because my interchangeable needles are, what's full length on an interchangeable needle? What is it, like 5 inches, 5.5 inches? And on like even the smallest cord that I had, it was way too much length. So I ended up having to use like a non-interchangeable circular needle that I just had from a previous project, and it was close enough in needle size, so I was like, oh, this is fine. So I used that instead, and I think it turned out like fine. I think it looks pretty much like her pictures. And the only thing I'll say, oh, I did put elastic in the neckband, and I think that's gonna help me over time just enjoy the sweater more so it doesn't stretch out. But my thing about the neckband, this is the only thing I would like, this is the only point I would kind of dock from this PetiteKnit pattern, and it's that she calls for you to knit the entire length of the neckband. Like this is folded over double, and so the pattern calls for you to knit the entire length and then just bind off and you're done. And then at the end you go in and fold it over and sew it down. And I like knitting because of how tedious it is. Like that's my favorite, like that's why I like knitting. It just kind of fits like my A-type personality, and I like knowing exactly what's going to happen next. And so the tedious part of the sewing down was not the part that got me. The part that got me was that maybe it was just the way I picked up stitches, but it was not very obvious to me where I needed to sew down each stitch. And so this collar's probably honestly twisted. It took me a couple tries to get it even close to what this looks like. And so it was just not enjoyable. Like it felt like I was guessing a lot. And I think it looks fine. I think the end result is aesthetically fine, but the process was not enjoyable at all. And it personally took me way too long. Like I spent way too long just sewing down the neckband. And I actually am working on another sweater that I'll show you in just a minute. And it also has a double folded, like a folded over collar, but instead of binding off and then sewing it down, you just keep all the stitches live on the needles and you knit it into the picked up edge. And that process was just way, way easier for me. It's probably the gauge, because the gauge on this sweater, like the one I'm going to show you in a minute, is like significantly larger than this. So that probably had a lot to do with it, but it just made more sense to keep the stitches on the needles and knit into the picked up edge. So when I make this sweater again, which I probably will make another Stockholm sweater, that's going to be something that I try on my second version, is to see if I can knit into the picked up edge instead of binding it off and then sewing it down. Because then I think that's also less yarn that you have to use, right? Yeah, I think so. So that's like the one thing about the pattern that I didn't enjoy, and that'll be something that I look out for in my next version. So, but that was it. Let's see, I have like a little notebook here in front of me. I totally stole this idea from, is it Alexandra's Garn here on YouTube? And so what she does is she has like a little tag and it says everything about the yarn, and then you attach a little scrap of the yarn, and I love this. Like it's easy access, and anyway, I just want to show you guys that, and it's just so sweet. But I have a couple notes here on what I did, so let me check. Yeah, okay, so that's pretty much everything as far as the pattern goes. And the yarn, like I said, the yarn is okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the color change. I mentioned this in my first podcast. When I went to go change to my second set of skeins, because I did hold this yarn double to make the entire sweater, like about right here is when I changed, and it was just so much lighter and I could see it. And having never worked with hand-dyed variegated yarn before, I didn't know that would be a problem. So the bottom half of the sweater is lighter than the top half. And so that really like was not enjoyable when I noticed that happening as it was happening. But I do think that after finishing the sleeves and having this next to it, it kind of balanced it out where you can't see it as well, I hope. And it's to the point that I don't even, like, no one notices it unless I point it out to them. And even then they're like, okay, I mean, I kind of see it, but not really. And I've asked a few people that, so I think that makes me feel better about it. And so I'm not going to try to like do anything with the color or anything crazy. But again, a learning experience, and that's just something that I will look out for when using hand-dyed yarns and like switching the skeins and just making sure that everything stays lined up. So yeah, that's it on the yarn. I think it's fine. The reason that I used this yarn is because it was actually a gift from my mom for my birthday. And so I thought I might as well just use the yarn since I have it instead of buying something else. And kind of on that note, I thought it would be interesting and maybe a little bit helpful to share with you guys how much a project costs me after I finished it, to like kind of let you know everything that was involved. Like, because you know, I can't tell you at the beginning when I first purchased the yarn, like just in case I have to like buy extra or whatever. So if you find this helpful, let me know. Obviously everything is relative to where you live, what's available to you, shipping, all that good stuff. So I know that this isn't going to be the same exact price for you, but maybe it'll kind of give you a little gauge of what this looks like. And so for this sweater, like I said, I used a Hobby Lobby brand yarn, and it is 100 gram. It comes in 100 gram skeins, and these originally are $16 each. But Hobby Lobby does this thing where every other week its yarn is 30% off. So for all 6 skeins that I used at the 30% off rate, this sweater in total cost me $67, and that's US dollars, which is not horrible for a handmade sweater. Like the next sweater I'm going to show you and like a couple of other ones that I'm eyeballing, like those are definitely more pricey. So like $67 overall is pretty good, but still expensive. Like knitting, wow, it's a bit much, but it's fine. But the reason I put like in quotes a minute ago, like for all 6 skeins that I bought, is because 4 of the skeins were gifted to me from my mom. So really I only invested about $25 into this sweater. So thank you, Mom. But overall, if I had bought all 6 skeins by myself at the 30% off rate, about $67. So not too bad. I hope that helps you. If you like this kind of concept, I'll let you know my other finished objects and their costs in the future. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about my Stockholm sweater. I definitely want to make another one. I just really like the style. I'm gonna probably go up a size, and I'll probably make it, oh goodness, it was Bea from her podcast, Rebecca from Bea, and she said she made a Stockholm sweater in alpaca and mohair, and apparently it was like her favorite or like most worn sweater of last year, and so that really gets me excited. And I would love to make one of those, maybe like a brown or something. So anyway, that'll be in the future for me at some point. So that is my Stockholm sweater by PetiteKnit. Okay, my next 2 finished objects kind of came out of the blue. I mean, not really. I knew I wanted to make this first one, but it just didn't turn out. The process wasn't exactly what I imagined it to be, and it's perfectly fine. So basically what happened was I redecorated my art room, and I wanted some type of rug to go in here. And so I originally was planning on hand knitting a rug, and so I did. but I only bought 4 balls of like really chunky yarn, and the rug was like this big. It was like so tiny. It didn't cover any of the floor. It was more like a bath mat than a rug. And so I went back to Hobby Lobby to get more of that same color yarn, and they didn't have as much as I would have liked. And so I was like, I can kind of make this work. But all of their chunky yarn was having like a closeout sale. And so I bought a bunch of yarn that was just a completely different yarn. So I was going to completely make a rug, like a separate rug from the one I'd already started. So anyway, let me show you the first rug that I made. So this is the finished object rug that I ended up with after going back and getting the second yarn. So this is the rug. And it's so sweet. It's so soft. Oh my gosh. Like, I almost feel bad putting this on the ground because, like, I don't know, like, is it bad to walk on this? It's just so soft. It feels so good. But anyway, so let me see. I saved one of the tags. So the yarn is called Chunky Spiral and the color is called Bring Me Pearls. And I just love that name. I love pearls. But anyway, this was just gorgeous. It's like purple and white. And I think there's like a little bit of like blue gray in there. Definitely some pinks. Anyway, it's gorgeous and it's so soft. It is, let's see. I don't even think it has a weight on here. Like, because it's so, it's a 7 jumbo weight. So anyway, it recommends size 15 millimeter knitting needles. And it's 60% acrylic, 28% polyamide, and 12% wool. Now, I didn't get this rug with the intention of it being made, or I didn't pick out this yarn with the intention of it being made in like an all natural fiber and really nice materials. Like, I wanted this to be a cheap and big rug, and that's kind of what it ended up being. It's actually a little bit smaller than I thought it would be, but it's big enough, like it fills the space and it kind of fulfilled its purpose. But okay, the reason I got it is because, like I said, it was having a closeout sale, and originally this stuff was $20 a ball, and I bought 5 balls. I'm not paying that to make a rug. I'm sorry, like, I'm not gonna pay $20 a ball. But when you're having a 75% off closeout sale and it's only $5 a ball, I will totally buy 5 of them and make my own rug. So that's what I did, and I really love it. Yeah, it's like so soft. I cranked this thing out in 3 days. And maybe that's like not a long time because it's so chunky, but it felt like pretty fast because I was knitting like all day, and my hands definitely hurt a little bit. Oh, real quick, going back to my Stockholm sweater, this also took me, I want to kind of tell you guys the price and how long it took me, and I knitted exclusively on this for exactly a month straight. So not for long every day, but at least like 1 hour every day for a month straight. So Stockholm sweater, that's my knitting pace. I'm not very fast, but I thought it was pretty good. But anyway, back onto this. It was really big needles and it was pretty fast, but also like I felt that it was extra fast. These are the needles that I used. These are US 36 20 millimeter needles. And tell me how this stuff recommends a 15 millimeter needle. Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, I think this is really like a tight gauge. So I don't know how they expected this to knit up easily on 15 millimeter needles, because 20 I feel like was pushing it. But anyway, it kind of hurt my wrists a little bit after a while, just because I think like really chunky needles are not super great for me personally. But anyway, it knitted up super fast. This cord was not long enough at all, and so I had like the stitches scrunched on here too, so that probably contributed to why my hands hurt a little bit. But that being said, these needles are gigantic, but previously, for the thing that I'm going to show you in a minute, I know I keep talking about it, that uses size 13 9 millimeter needles. Yeah, I think those are 9 millimeters. Anyway, and I had to buy those because I didn't have anything that was that big. And so I was like, whenever I first bought those, I was like, these like 9 millimeter needles are gigantic. These are crazy to knit with after having knit this on like 4 millimeter needles. 4? I don't remember. And then I bought this. And After I finished 3 days in a row of knitting on that rug aggressively, and then I tried to go back to my sweater on my 9mm needles in the same evening, I kind of had like whiplash, if that makes sense. So like, I don't know if whiplash is the right word, but like going from this and then to those, which are significantly smaller, I was like, this feels wrong. Like I'm going to break these. Like I almost like sick to my stomach too. I was like, this is a weird texture experience. It was weird. So I had to like take a couple days off of knitting before I could switch back into my sweater that I was working on. So anyway, that was kind of crazy. That was a crazy experience. I don't think I'll be making another rug on 20mm needles anytime soon. But for the 3 days of like very aggressive knitting, it was fine. And I'm really happy with the rug and the yarn and how it turned out. And that brings me into my third and final finished object. And basically I told you I had hand knit a rug to start out with, and I was like, it was fine. I just wasn't super convinced with the whole hand knitting thing because it was very loose, it was very drapey. I didn't like it. And the edges were curling. Oh, that was something else. So on the original rug that I hand knit, the edges like curled pretty aggressively because it was just stockinette stitch. And so because the edges were curling really bad on my first rug, what I ended up doing on the actual knitted rug is I did 5 rows of garter stitch and then 5 stitches of garter stitch on each side before just doing like plain stockinette in the middle. And that significantly helped the curling of the rug. And in hindsight, I should have done more than 5 rows of garter stitch on the top and bottom because I forgot that stitches are wider than rows are long, but it's fine. I'm not super concerned that it's not symmetric, but that really helped with the curling, and I'm happy with how the rug turned out. So that's that. And that brings me into my third and final finished object, and that would be my first crocheted piece. So like I said, I had already started to hand knit the rug, and I had 4 balls of that yarn, and I would hate for it to just sit there and like do nothing with it. And so in part of redecorating my art room, I built a bench, and it needed like a little cushy runner to go on it. So I literally, this is 4 balls of chunky yarn. This is like 6 feet long, maybe long. That's longer than 6 feet. That's probably 7 feet. And just single crochet. Yeah, so this is my first crocheted piece. I don't know how to do anything more complicated than this. And originally I started just with like kind of a chain that was this long, and then I was going to crochet back and forth this way until I ran out of yarn. But I kind of hated how the edges were turning out. They looked super bumpy. I mean, you can see here, this is what the long edge looked like. And I hated it. I was like, this is so bumpy and kind of gross looking. So I ripped all that back and I cast on one really long chain and then just single crocheted back and forth until I ran out of yarn. And this is what I ended up with. The bench itself is only 5 feet long. And so I made a chain that was 5 feet long, and then it grew. This is now 7 feet long. Maybe a little less than that. Well, I'm 5'6". This might actually be almost 7 feet long. And so I didn't know, did I like mess up? Or did I make the chain longer than 5 feet? I don't know. I thought I made only a 5-foot chain, but it grew significantly. And it's fine. Like it drapes over the edge of the bench, and I think it's actually really pretty. But yeah, I like it. The single crochet, or just like crochet in general, is a lot thicker than knitting. And that I think makes for a great thing to sit on because it's like squishier, so that's really cool. But let me tell you, this eats your yarn, and it just eats it, and that made me sad because I thought I was gonna be able to make it a little bit thicker, but 4 balls of chunky yarn just disappeared into this. So that's one thing about crochet that I learned. It's like it eats your yarn and it doesn't give it back. So, but it's fine. I like the look of it. And yeah, it's pretty cute. I don't remember what this yarn was called, and it doesn't matter anyway because same thing with the Bring Me Pearls yarn. It's discontinued. Hobby Lobby just does that when it feels like it randomly. Just like, get rid of the yarn, never bring it back, don't let anybody know. So it's just some type of chunky yarn. It's got a little bit of wool in it, but I think it's mostly some type of acrylic. But anyway, I don't have much else to say about this other than Well, actually, crocheting was really fun. Like, it was so meditative. And it was really fun and easy and fast. And so I think that's why people love crochet so much, is because you can see your results like really quickly. And that was a lot of fun. Like, for example, if this had been like the same width as the actual rug that I made, this like length probably would have taken me a third or a quarter of the time. Oh, maybe, yeah, let's say a quarter of the time. Like, if this section took me like 3 hours, I'm not gonna do that. If this section took me 4 hours on the rug, it would only take me 1 hour to crochet, and vice versa, something like that. I'm making things up. That's probably not how it works time-wise, but that's what it felt like because this was incredibly fast. And I liked that. It was a fun process. So anyway, that's it. It's a crocheted piece. So I guess I have like 2.5 finished objects, because I don't know if this counts. It's literally just a long piece of fabric with nothing to it. But it was fun. It was my first crochet piece. So that's that. And that is my final finished object for this episode. Yeah, I feel like that's a lot. That was one more finished object than I was expecting to have, which is cool. But yeah, I pretty much knit on all these things exclusively. Like, I finished this, and then I cast on the next thing I'm going to show you. But then I set that down to make those two rug runner things. And so like I did knit everything like pretty much monogamously. And so like, I don't know, it just feels good to have more finished objects than one to show y'all. So anyway, pretty fun. Moving on. Moving into my works in progress, I have 2 works in progress to show you guys. Originally, I was only gonna have one, but I got really excited because I got some yarn that came in and I could not stop myself from casting on the second thing I'm gonna show you. But first of all, this is sweater number 21 by My Favourite Things Knitwear, or at least what I have of it so far. So yeah, I feel like this is exactly where my Stockholm sweater was when I showed y'all in the last episode. Like, I have the entire body done, the collar, and I'm just now starting on the sleeves. So maybe I'll have like 1 sweater done a month at this rate. But this pattern, well, first of all, the yarn that I used for this is half of the recommended yarn. And so the first one is, let's see, Isager's Eco Soft. And this is in the colorway E6S. And like I said in my last episode, I think these are all like natural colorways, which is really fun. So yeah, anyway, this is really cool. So this is made out of 56% alpaca and 44% cotton. I still haven't decided if it's soft. Like, it's not soft, I'll be honest with you. Like, if you're sensitive to natural fibers or anything that's even remotely itchy, you're gonna think this is itchy. But if you're not at all sensitive, you're not gonna think it's itchy. Does that make sense? I don't know, like, let's just be honest, it's not soft. It's not. It's pretty itchy, but not in like a gross, itchy kind of way. Like, it's just, yeah, it just kind of is. I asked my husband to tell me if he thought it was itchy, and he's very picky on like what he wears and like what he thinks is soft, and he was like, ugh, gross, that's itchy. So if he didn't like it, then if you're very picky, you're probably not gonna like it. So it's pretty itchy, and that's definitely the Eco Soft's fault. Even though it has soft in the name, so it's fine. But if you're not sensitive at all, you'd probably like this. Like, it's a decent texture. Like, I kind of like it. I don't plan on wearing this just next to my skin. Like, I'm definitely gonna wear a long sleeve shirt on under it. So I'll probably love it. So anyway, it's fine. But then the second half of the yarn that I'm using, I couldn't find the actual, like, I think it's Trio by Isager. I couldn't find that, but I found Queensland Collection United, and this is in the colorway number 1, and this is essentially, where'd it go? 55% lamb's wool and 45% cotton, and that's what this looks like. This is all I have left. It's already attached to the sweater. I don't know. I think that this will be enough for 2 sleeves, but I think I'm already starting to play yarn chicken, because this is what I have left of my 4th ball, and then I have 1 left. And so, like, if this whole thing was 4 balls of the Eco Soft and I still have 2 whole sleeves to go, I think I'm gonna run out of yarn. And that's a little sad. Anyway, I'll let you know. But as of right now, I'm playing yarn. It feels like I'm like already playing Yarn Chicken, even though I still haven't opened the last one, but it's probably gonna happen. So, but anyway, the yarn is pretty soft for what it is, but it's not actually that soft, but it's pretty cool. Yeah, I started this, oh gosh, already almost a month ago now. Wow, time is flying. This one's taking me longer than the Stockholm Sweater, but I think it's because I set it down for a couple weeks at a time to work on the rugs and everything. So I think I would have been done with this like 2 weeks ago, to be honest, if I had knit on it exclusively. So this, if you knit on this exclusively, it knits up way faster than just a regular stockinette sweater because there's a bunch of holes in it and it's lace, but it's fun. It's really cool. Yeah, so the yarn itself, like, it's fine. If I were to do this again, I probably would use the same yarn again, honestly. Like, I love the color options that it comes with, and if you're not wearing it next to skin, then it doesn't really matter how soft it is. So I really like the look of it. I like the halo. I think it's really sweet. Oh, as I said, the collar is also double knitted, but you picked up stitches to start the collar, then you knit the full length, and then you fold it over and you knit like in the collar to tack it down. And that was so much easier and so much more intuitive than seaming it down. And like I said, maybe it's because this gauge is like at least triple what this is. Triple's dramatic. It's a lot bigger. Maybe that had something to do with it, but this was way easier. And I'm gonna try, if I can help it, I am not gonna be sewing down any more neckbands in my life, if I can help it. So anyway, but that is that. The one thing. So basically, whenever I got the sweater pattern, I didn't have 9mm needles in my interchangeable kit. And so I had to special order these to go with my kit. And like, that's totally fine. But it never crossed my mind to read through the entire pattern and like not even the entire pattern. It's probably like right at the front at the description to read all the needle sizes you'll need. I didn't even think to read that. But when it came down to the ribbing, I did not have the correct needle size for the ribbing either, because apparently my interchangeable kit, not apparently, it does, goes from a 6.5mm to an 8mm. Why it skipped the 7, I don't know, but it did. And so when I got down to the ribbing and I didn't have the right needle size, I was just like, I'm a tight knitter, I'll just use a size 8 needle. And it kind of worked. Kind of. Like, when you look at it, like, I don't think it looks horrible, but I tried it on before picking up stitches for the sleeves, and I don't think I like how like thick the bottom ribbing feels compared to the rest of the sweater. Like, it just kind of looks 3D. Maybe it's because like such a texture difference that I feel like that. This rug, just, oh my God. I've been picking these, there it is. I've been picking this rug's like fuzz off of my clothing ever since I finished it. I'm sorry, that was gross. It's everywhere. It's all over my clothes. It's all over my house. It's a good thing this was discontinued because it's pretty, but it's everywhere. So, sorry. But anyway, this is really thick. I think the 8mm needle choice was a bad one. And so if I'm not playing Yarn Chicken by the end of it and I have a little bit left over, what I might end up doing is ripping back all of the ribbing and going down to a 6.5mm needle, which will probably make this end like right here. And so I'll need a little bit more yarn to give it the full length that the pattern recommends. And anyway, I might do that. But also what could happen is the sleeves, like when I finish those, that could really balance out the entire sweater and just make it look like it makes sense and it doesn't look so puffy and out of place. But yeah, out of place, that's probably the best way to describe it. Like right now, the ribbing just really feels out of place. So maybe finishing the sleeves will make me feel better about that. But as of right now, I don't like it. So I might go back and change it. And I really do think that at this point, after finishing this sweater and kind of listening to other people's experiences on YouTube, I do think it's worth it to fix something if you don't like it. Because if I'm like gonna spend a month of my time or more working on this thing, I want it to be as good as I can make it, or as close to what I had envisioned as possible. So if I have yarn left over and if it still looks out of place, I think I'm gonna go down needle size on this ribbing. So, but anyway, other than that, so far I am loving this pattern. Not even other than that, the needle, that's my fault. That's my fault that I messed up. But this is so gorgeous on the back. And like it's a couple, it's a few stitches of just plain stockinette on either side. And then it goes into the lace pattern. And this is my first time knitting lace, by the way. And it just goes so fast. Like, wow, this is a 4-row repeat of this lace pattern. And it just, yeah, this entire body just went by so quickly. Like the only reason I haven't finished it yet is because I set it down to work on other things. And it's just so incredibly fast. I love it. Am I gonna make another one of these? Probably. Like, I really like this. This could be like a really good gift knit because of how, like, theoretically how fast it could knit up. And not to say it was a cheap gift, because I won't tell you the price yet, but not cheap, but it's fine. But if you're willing to invest in your gifts, this could be a decent gift knit because of how fast it feels like it's knitting up. So anyway, this is sweater number 21 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I'm really loving it. Another thing, I'm knitting a size 2 in this. So for her pattern on this, I haven't knit any other My Favorite Things Knitwear patterns, but on this one, she only gives 4 size options, and I technically fit into the first size, but I started on the back panel. You start on the back and then you pick up stitches for the front, same thing with the Stockholm Sweater. I started on this, and let's see, I think the shoulders finished about like right here as opposed to down here. They like finished up here. And I looked at that and I was like, my shoulders are bigger than that. Like I might be a size 1 everywhere else, but I do not have size 1 shoulders. And so for this to have the lovely draping effect that her sweater has in the pictures, I went up to a size 2. And that's also probably why I'm running out of yarn, you know, so it's fine. But yes, I'm making a size 2 in this, and I am not going to block this after I finish it because this yarn is not supposed to be blocked as much as you can help it. So it's just supposed to be, what's it called, like steam blocked or something, like you spray it. So anyway, I'm not going to block this, but I'll measure it when it's done and I'll let you know what those final measurements are. But yeah, so that's it. And do I have anything else to say about this? Do I have any notes? Yeah, no, that's really all it so far. Like it's great. I'm really loving it. I'm just having needle problems though, because these are the 9mm needles and I'm working on the sleeves. And at first I was trying to do magic loop, but because it's a lace pattern, the magic loop, like second end of it ended at a weird place. And so the pattern would like cross over this loop section, if that makes sense. And so I was really struggling. Oh, like if you'd have to like knit 2 together or something. And so I was really struggling to make that work with magic loop. I kept having to like switch the direction. And so I put the 9mm needles on my shortest cord that I have, and it's still like super tight. Like I really have to stretch the stitches to get them on here, and I hate doing that. So what might end up happening is I might have to set this sweater aside for even longer while I order some different needles. I think what I'm gonna have to do is get the shorter ones. You know, they make like 2.5-inch needles instead of like the full length. I think these are 5.5 inches. And I think I'm gonna have to get those to finish these sleeves. And honestly, like I'm gonna use them because I felt the same thing with the Stockholm Sweater. I had to knit all of the sleeves on magic loop, and it was a little annoying, but not too bad because it was all stockinette. But on this, it's insanely annoying to do magic loop, and like these needles are too long to use my shortest cord. And so I think I'm going to get the shorter needle tips and just work it in the round for the sleeves. And I think that'll make me a lot happier because I'm gonna use them. I'm gonna knit plenty of sleeves in my life to justify the purchase. And low key, I've been thinking about getting into sock knitting. I have seen so many people knitting socks all over YouTube, and I'm considering it. The thing is, I have a dog, and he does his darndest to bring as much dirt and mud and sticks into the house as possible. So I don't actually know if I could wear hand knitted socks, but I like the idea of it. I really like the idea of it. And just, I don't know, being able to have them, I don't know, that might be weird. But I might be getting into sock knitting. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, the small circular needles will probably be worth the investment. And yeah, so anyway, that is sweater number 21 by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I expect to finish it once I have the needles within almost like a week or two, because like the lace is just that fast. Like it's really awesome. So anyway, that's that. Okay. For my last work in progress. Okay. Look at this is going to be an Oslo hat by PetiteKnit. So this was supposed to be an acquisition to show you guys, but this is what I was too excited to open and I didn't want to wait because it, oh God. I mean, first of all, just this blue, oh my God. The color, or first of all, this is Double Sunday. This is Double Sunday by Sandnes Garn, and it is electric blue. The color is electric blue, and that is a PetiteKnit color line. Oh God, it's so beautiful. I just got so excited. I had to open it. I had to start knitting with it. This is the second ball so far, so there's already one ball completely in here, and I'm honestly a little afraid that I'm going to run out. This is like the amount of yarn that the pattern recommended, but I'm concerned because you still have like the entire crown of the hat to go, but it's fine. It's the color. I can't, like, wow. I don't even know if this color will look good on me. I don't even know. I don't care. It's beautiful. I love it and I'm going to wear it. But it's, the yarn is 100% merino wool. It's non-superwash. And their Double Sunday is like a DK kind of weight yarn. And I think the pattern actually recommends just Sunday yarn, which is like a fingering or a light fingering held double. But I was thinking, what's the point of holding something double if I can just have the correct like thickness with one ball of yarn? And maybe that's just like my ignorance showing, like maybe there really is a method to the madness of holding the same yarn double versus the thicker version of that yarn. Let me know. I don't know. But anyway, I just bought Double Sunday because I think she has made, like even one of her examples was made in Double Sundays. I'm like, this is probably fine. But it's so squishy. And texture-wise, I don't know if I would consider this soft. Again, like my definition of soft must just be like really hard to attain, because I don't think this is soft, but I also don't think it's itchy, you know? And I hope that that's not what I have to say about every single yarn ever, but that just seems to be the trend. It's like, it's not horrible, but it's also not, like I wouldn't, if I handed this to somebody, their first response wouldn't be, oh my gosh, this is soft, you know? Is it? Yeah, I think it's like the same. It's softer than the Hobby Lobby yarn. Like the non-superwash Double Sunday it's definitely softer than the Hobby Lobby yarn once it's worked up. So that's good, you know, more expensive yarn is softer. I love that. But anyway, it doesn't matter if it's soft because it's beautiful and I'm gonna wear it and I love it. So anyway, enough about the yarn. Anyway, it's just beautiful. The pattern so far, I'm not gonna lie. When I first read through the pattern, I was like, what is going on? These are confusing words. I don't know what anything means and I'm scared. But actually getting into the pattern and like once you arrive at that step, it kind of makes more sense. Like this is a double folded like bottom part, and so I'm knitting the length right here, and then once it's done, like this whole thing will fold up and be inside out. Let me show you. Like it'll basically, like this is what I basically got so far. I've got the edge and then I'm working on a little bit like the top part of the hat. So this is kind of what it looks like so far. And then I'm working on the crown here. So it's folded up. And so that actual folding process and like this thing that happened in the middle was a little confusing, but not too bad. Like once I have it, like now that I have it down, I know what to do for the next time. And if you're my family, stop watching, because if I love this hat pattern, this is going to be what everyone in my family gets for Christmas this year. And I have collected everyone's favorite color and I'm going to make them an Oslo hat if I like this. But if not, then I'm going to try other hat patterns and see if I like them. And I'm also testing out the yarn at the same time to see if this is something that I like. So yeah, the pattern, it's pretty good, a little confusing at first, but it makes sense once you get there. The sizing, I'm a little scared about because I measured my head and I was at the very top end of the, was it size small? There's 4 sizes, and I didn't do the extra small, but I think I did the small. And I was at the very top end of this range on my head because I have a pretty small head for like grown adults, as far as grown adults go. But so I was like, yeah, I got a small head, I can make this. But this is a little small, so I'm a little scared. I'm not gonna try it on right now because I don't want it to mess up. But I have a feeling I'm gonna have to block this pretty aggressively. I might have to buy some blocking pins to let it stretch out a little more. But also maybe it could stretch. Like this is pretty big. Like it's stretching out like a fair amount. So I don't know, we'll see. But I do think depending on how this turns out, like it's a great lesson for all of like everyone else in my family, because my sisters, like we have about the same size head, so I'll either knit this same size or go up 1 size for them, and then all the men in my family are gonna get the biggest size regardless. So, but I feel like it's good to test it out on myself first before I like fully commit to like, this is a gift, you know, before I fully commit and it just doesn't work out. But yeah, so that's this. One thing about the yarn is there was a knot in it. And I don't know if that's common for double Sunday or like Sandnes Garn in general, but I always thought that like having knots in yarn was cheaper yarn, and kind of like every Hobby Lobby skein or ball that I've ever knitted with had a knot in it. And I'm like, it's Hobby Lobby, that's why, because it's like cheaper yarn. But this had a knot in it. So that was pretty interesting to see. So I probably need to do more research on like the manufacturing process and how that works, because I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. I don't think it like ruined the experience for me. It was just like I just cut it, or actually this one just like unraveled by itself and I just had to add it in like it was an extra ball of yarn. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. So anyway, this is going to be my Oslo hat by PetiteKnit, and I love the color. Oh my God, I love the color so much. It's just so vibrant. It's so sweet. It's not incredibly soft, but hey, maybe it'll block out and it'll be super soft after that. I'll let you know. We'll see. So anyway, that is my second and final work in progress for this podcast. And then the last thing that I have to show you are 2 acquisitions that are actually going to go into the same garment. So what I have Sunday, and I have Tin Silk Mohair by Sandnes Garn. Now, yeah, I'm excited about this. Okay, so, actually tell you why I bought this. So I know in my knitting plans video, I talked about like a trip that my husband and I are gonna take this year and wanting to center almost all of my knitting around that one trip, and that's really exciting. But something pretty awesome happened in my life recently, and that is that I got a job. So this is my first job out of college, and I'm really excited about it. And it's definitely got like a laid back kind of vibe to it, but it's still an office situation. And so I wanted to kind of contribute to my wardrobe in that way. And so this is going to become the Stockholm Slipover V-neck by PetiteKnit, because I figured just like a nice professional looking slipover would look really sweet over a like white button down shirt and all that good stuff. So I'm really excited. So that's why I am also going to probably make myself a couple office friendly knitted pieces. Like I'm already eyeballing a couple different cardigans that I want to make for the same reason, but this is gonna be the first thing that I start with, because I think it'll be sweet. And plus we're going into like warmer weather, so I think a slipover would be more appropriate than like a full-blown sweater to start with. So anyway, this is, like I said, Sunday by PetiteKnit, which I think is like a fingering or a light fingering or a lace. I don't remember. It's Sunday. Everyone knows this yarn, so y'all know better than I do. But I don't remember what the actual color is named, but it's 2542 is the number. And for the Tin Silk Mohair, the color is 3021. And if you're curious, these are the exact colors that PetiteKnit used in one of her samples for this pattern. And I honestly looked at hers and I was like, I want that one. That is the one I want. So I bought the yarn. I don't think these make sense together, like at all. Like I don't think this looks like her sweater vest. So I'm a little nervous that I bought the wrong mohair, because I know this is correct. This looks like her sweater does. But I'm afraid that I got the wrong mohair. But that's fine. I will make a swatch at some point and hope that it looks good and hope that it matches. But I've never knit with mohair before, so I'm probably just not expecting or not used to what that looks like when it's knit up, so it probably doesn't matter that they don't match exactly. But anyway, I'm excited to knit with it. It's pretty soft. I feel like let me see. Oh, I had different opinions whenever it was like, when they were both brand new. Because when I was first holding the Sunday and the double Sunday, I thought that the double Sunday was softer. But now that like this is kind of unwound a little bit, I feel like the softness was coming from the squishiness. But I think Sunday might be softer, even though it's the same exact material. They're both merino wool, non-superwash. But yeah, Sunday might be softer just because it's smaller and like finer. Yeah, but this is definitely squishier and fluffier, but this is pretty soft. It's like decently soft. We'll see what it feels like knitted up though. But the mohair is pretty soft. Yeah, it feels almost like dry. Whoops. It feels like a dry soft, if that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll be able to tell better when it's knitted up. God, I hate that every yarn that I hold, I can't tell if it's soft or not. Like I don't hate it, so that's a good sign, but I just can't tell if it's soft. So I'll let you know once the slip over is made up and everything looks good in that department. So, but anyway, I have 3 of each of these, and hopefully that'll be enough to make a slip over. Oh gosh, I feel like I bought the quantity for the size small, but like I said, I might actually go up in a PetiteKnit size. So I hope I have enough. I don't know, I haven't decided. I haven't read the measurements of what those sizes are before I bought the yarn. I probably should have done that, but I didn't. So yeah, I'll either knit a small or medium and hope that I have enough yarn for that. But yeah, that'll be my next thing that I cast on, hopefully. And after that, I feel like all of my plans are just completely up in the air because of like me getting this job and like now aggressively switching my attention to wanting to make garments for that. So who knows what I'll have next time, or if I'll cast something on randomly in the meantime. But as of right now, I am going to finish up sweater number 21, definitely the Oslo hat. Oh, that's what I was going to say. Okay, so I know myself, and I know that I enjoy being a monogamous knitter because I get to have that finished object sooner whenever I put all of my attention on one thing for a period of time. But the reason that I cast on the Oslo hat, even though I was in the middle of sweater number 21, is because I sat down. Well, first of all, I was frustrated with the sleeve situation and like that being really uncomfortable to knit on. So I really wanted something small and reliable and just pretty mindless. And so I think that will almost be my method from now on, which is to have one big work in progress, to like that be like the main thing that I really care about, but then to also have a little palette cleanser that's just something easy and almost peaceful to work on and requires almost no thought. Just, yeah, it's like something to do for fun. And plus, since I'll be making hopefully a lot of hats this year, this can be my little palette cleanser just in many different colors. And if I get into sock knitting, then maybe that can be my palette cleanser that's also like a good on-the-go project, because it's way easier to lug around a little hat or a little sock than it is a full sweater. And also, that will probably satisfy my need to, well, it'll probably give me a reason to buy more yarn, which is a problem, because I can totally justify buying one skein of yarn that can be turned into a hat, then I can justify buying a sweater's quantity of yarn that might turn into a sweater. So is it a little budget friendly? It's not. None of this is budget friendly. Am I justifying this in my own mind because I want to buy more yarn? Yes, but it's fine. So anyway, I think what's going to happen is I've already like I said, I've already collected all of my family members' favorite colors. So what I might end up doing is if I go to a yarn shop, which doesn't happen very often, there like are basically none around me, I can look and have like that list of colors pulled up and see if they have one, like see if one checks off one on the list, and that gives me like something to buy or like look for whenever I go shopping, or if I'm online shopping and I'm like, oh, you know, it's time for a new hat, so I'll buy that yarn. So anyway, because buying yarn is fun. If you know, you know, it's just fun. I think I looked at this yarn for like 2 hours before I bought it, maybe even longer. Even though I knew exactly what I was gonna get, I just perused the website and I was like, what else could I make with this? For like 2 hours, probably longer. Anyway, it's fun. So that's what I think I'm gonna end up doing. So like in my mind, I feel like I'm still decently a monogamous knitter in that way, but then like a little side project, I just probably won't have like I probably won't have 4 sweaters going on at one time, because that would be a lot for me to keep up with. I can barely keep up with one pattern at a time. My entire house is already covered with knitting things, even though I only have 2 works in progress. Like there's just knitting stuff everywhere. So I couldn't imagine having more than one main project going at a time and what that would look like. But anyway, I think that is all that I have for this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like I said, hopefully next podcast I'll have a finished sweater to show you, maybe a hat, maybe a little more yarn to show you. So anyway, stay tuned and let me know if you liked hearing about the cost of my finished objects, and if that helps you, if that's something, I don't know, just beneficial. Let me know, and let me know your thoughts on just any of this, any of the yarn. Do you think any of this stuff is soft? I can't tell. Does it get softer with blocking? I really hope so. I don't know. Just let me know. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a beautiful day.